managing a number of clients. What is the business of Facebook to be able to get that done, right? And thus, this is ultimately a B2B relationship. It's a business-to-business relationship, even if you're serving underlying B2C clients. And if you're serving B2B customers, if you're servicing other agencies, or you're servicing folks who service businesses, then you're in the B2B to B2C space. So try to wrap your head around that, right? Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute. To be able to drive this funnel, we need a lighthouse. And in our case, we have a few of them because we have enough people to extend that, and we have to be able to prove it. So we might have, like the Golden State Warriors, as the example, well executed, well documented all the way through, so that we can get another 5 or 6 sports teams doing the same thing. You'd rather have one lighthouse than 15 random Arlington, Texas, Grand Prairie, whatever sorts of businesses. Just trust me on that. You'd rather do 15 med spas than 15 random other kinds of businesses. To attract the lighthouse that you want, you've got to have the content. Because if you don't put out the right content, you won't attract what you want. You have to say very clearly, this signal has to come clearly from this lighthouse client. And most people don't have the content. I've seen everyone who's been set up in their Basecamp project and the success tracker and the strategy assessment where we're collecting what your goals are. I've seen everything that's come through up until about an hour ago, and I have not seen anyone who has what I believe is lighthouse quality content, which means, as far as I can tell, unless you've got content elsewhere, nobody here is generating enough inbound lead volume that you can actually say no to the majority of the stuff that's coming through. You have to generate enough inbound volume that not only do you not ever need to do cold calls or advertising the traditional way or free phone calls or any of this kind of speculative, the top on the phone stuff, but then you're not generating even, you need enough volume to be able to pick, and B, of that stuff that comes through, you want ones that match the concept of a lighthouse. Okay, so you may have seen us say, let's build the content library. Let's collect authoritative mentions. So one of the things that we'll do in just a few minutes is, I want to see 3 things. A why video, which is at the top of the funnel, that explains who you are, right? So, hi, I'm Brandon. I started the Anchor Agency because this is my story, this is what I do, and in the typical 3-part why video, when I was, this whole thing happened to me, and I learned from this experience, and therefore I believe that, and here are the things that you believe, and this is what I do. And as a result, I started this agency, or I've hung out with TD Jakes, and I've served on this crew, and because of what I've learned, I believe that, and this is what I do, right? You can always tell this 3-part why sequence. Then we need testimonials, which aren't just like, I use Flux because they're amazing and I don't have enough time to create more content. It's such a pain that I use these guys. It saves me time. That's not what I think about as a testimonial. I think of testimonials as teaching. Because if they're high enough quality, it's educational, and people are seeing the focus of the testimonial as really the education of what they've learned. So that if anyone were to see this, the focus is not on you, but it's you interviewing them, because you're thinking like you are the media. You're thinking like a journalist. If you think like a journalist, you're uplifting them, and it's not about you. But they may mention in there something about what you're doing. They may mention whatever it might be. And you allow that to happen naturally, so it doesn't sound forced. The majority of testimonials are forced, and they're bogus, and they're just like job references. Of course, people on their resume, they're going to refer people who are going to say, these people are awesome, or whatever it might be. And then you have to talk about what you do, which is a package. Ideally, these are all videos. We can at least film number 1 and number 3 here today. Number 2, you're going to have to go out there with your iPhone or whatnot and gather it. You don't need a professional video crew to do these pieces. But especially with Facebook as a lead gen vehicle, if you have videos in each of these different areas, you generate the inbound. We have, I don't know, 15 or 20 leads that come through per day. We do not sell. We do not have that free phone call. We do not exhibit at conferences. We have no salespeople. Can you believe that? If you look at the clients that we have some top-notch companies that we've worked with. No salespeople, because some people say, oh, can you put me in touch with your head of sales? What head of sales? We don't have any salespeople. Everyone has expertise, everyone can implement, and everyone can explain what we do as necessary, from a doctor, the hospital analogy, the emergency room analogy. They don't have salespeople in the emergency room. They have nurses, they have doctors, they have administrators, they have all these people, because people came into the emergency room of their own volition. And you need to establish enough authority that it's very clear that's the case. So a testimonial also includes any high authority third-party mention. So if you have been mentioned in the Dallas Morning News, maybe because you write for the Dallas Morning News, where that helps you too. You've written on a high authority site. It's pretty easy to write for Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, these other places. These are all great high authority touches. All of these lead into, if you have a consistency with your why, the three-part why, you have consistency with other people that are talking about you. The whole point of marketing, the whole thing that drives everything we're going to talk about today is how do you get other people to talk about you, to incept them so they do the work for you. But you still need to say what you do, but you pre-record that so you don't get on the phone and give out a free hour of consulting, even if you need a job right now. Never show how desperate you are, because people can sense it, even if you are, right? Even if you need that business, even if you need to grow, even if you're trying to make payroll for next month and you've got 20 people you got to pay for, whatever. So this three-part content engine, largely driven by video, is how you drive and qualify people. Have you guys heard of the hospital analogy, the emergency room? Have we talked about that? Who not heard about that? Raise your hand if you've not heard about that. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to put another layer on top of here and explain this real quick. Actually, I'm going to put it over here.
Dennis?
Yeah?
Did you write larger for the video?
Someone else is going to remake this. This is for us. I don't want to be the one in these videos. I want people more attractive to do it than me. So. Yeah, Casey can do it. So we do things in threes. It's like a trinity kind of thing. It's intentional. So the idea of metrics, analysis, action is when you go to a hospital, to the emergency room, the first thing they're going to do is collect your vitals. Your blood, I don't know, how much sugar you have. They're going to take an x-ray. They're going to collect these metrics. And once they collect the metrics, they're going to have a diagnosis. They're going to put the x-ray on the screen and say, well, it looks like you got a broken bone here. It looks like, based on all these charts, looks like you've got a problem with your kidney. It looks like you got a heart attack. It looks like you're schizophrenic. It looks like whatever it is. Based on the data, this is our diagnosis. And because of all these things that are wrong, based on this analysis, we're providing a treatment plan. So we're going to do this kind of surgery, we're going to do this kind of operation and these kinds of tools, and you're going to stay in the hospital this many days, and we're going to buy this kind of medication, and here's the price of all the stuff as a result of that. And this logical flow of metrics to analysis to action, because you start with the authority, you don't go into the emergency room and say, you know what, doc, I want you to do this thing on my kidneys, and I'm going to pay you this much, and I want it done within a week. No, because when you go in and you talk to that guy in the white lab coat, you have respect for what they know, that they've been doing this a long time. But in marketing, a lot of people, because they forget about their training and their authority, because they don't have a clear process that's tied to a lighthouse client, they just bypass this whole thing and they go straight to the treatment because they're trying to collect the money. And therefore, and because of that, these Patients, they just walk right into the emergency room and say, I want to talk to every one of your doctors for 5 minutes, and I want each of them to explain the kind of surgery that they do and their experience and all this kind of stuff. If you're having to explain what you do, that patient is not qualified. They are not expressing immediate pain. And in sales, they call that BANT, right? Budget, authority, need, timing. That's how you qualify whether someone is able and ready to buy now for the people that are in sales. I've studied all the sales training. I'm an engineer too. I'm an engineer first that has studied sales. That makes me dangerous. So you're a doctor. You have a process. You have a patient intake system. And as long as you follow the system and you preempt any of these random questions, you preempt them by having all of your content and what you do and all this kind of set in advance. You have content that shows what you do and what you don't do. Then you don't waste time re-explaining that kind of stuff over and over again. You already know what the prices are because they're preset. You already know who you don't want. You already know that you can generate a successful outcome because we have the necessary ingredients, the goals, content, targeting, the kinds of things that you collect that are all driven from this lighthouse customer. So think about yourself as a medical doctor that has processes. Maybe you're the only doctor in the office, but you need to train up other doctors and these other folks. Maybe that they aren't doctors, but they're more like nurses and administrative people. You know, when you go to a dentist's office, not all of them are dentists. There's people that do sort of simpler things at lower rates, right? Joel?
Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice.
Oh, I love that one. Yes.
Every good doctor knows that.
Yep.
And every
Yep.
good agency owner.
Yeah.
Also, you could spend an hour and a half at the doctor's office. You only see the doctor for 5 minutes, right? So you're there, and you got people taking all the vitals in the front. They come in, you sit down, and the next nurse comes in and says, "What's wrong?" When the doc gets there, he has all the information there in front of him, and he analyzes it. He's in and out in no time. So when people sign up and want to work with us, they give us all their information up front, and then everything's analyzed, and then it's put in front of Dennis, and Dennis spends a short amount of time because he's the doctor. Everything's already there, and then he analyzes the situation.
And that's how a doctor in 5 minutes can generate $1,000 of actual value and then charge $500 or whatever it is for that moment because there's a process. You don't see the doctor taking your blood. You don't see the doctor helping you fill out your forms. You don't see the doctor collecting the credit card. You don't see the doctor doing any of those kinds of things.